Hello, this is Tom, Negotiating with Jesus. And this morning I'm going to continue this introductory video because I've now talked to Paul. I had my second talk with Paul. And maybe it wasn't that helpful, but I'm part of this little corner, even if I'm the lurker that never really pushed his way into visibility, didn't really develop my YouTube channel, but now I'm going to try. So it's morning, it's getting around 5 a.m. I love mornings, so I have a routine in the morning that consists of, and the idea is I'm trying to develop a routine of things that I want to be in my life. So it's this order out of my chaos, and I'm pretty chaotic. So I'm talking a little bit quiet because I have two daughters, and I'm going to get to that part of my story. So the first part, I talked to Paul. It's in the members section of my video. A couple years back, I talked to him and gave my youth story of born. I didn't talk about my family, the things that he asked people to talk about, how you were raised. So slightly religious, moved to a place, to Pennsylvania. There was a religious group my dad was interested in. It was a sacred name group, so using the name Yahweh for God. So a Christian group, very Old Testament focused, sacred name, and Jewish law keeping. They were attempting to keep feast days and the Sabbath starting Friday night till Saturday night. So that was an unusual thing, and I wasn't interested at all. So as a 14-year-old, we moved to Pennsylvania, and shortly after I get involved in drugs, and that goes till I'm about 27. Then I get involved in church, so that was the first part of my little story. And I think this little corner is getting to know people. So I've talked to Paul twice. I talked to Grimm, and I want to call him Grimm rather than Grizz because I just like Grimm. Brothers Grimm, just the feeling. In some way, he plays a person who sees the grim nature of the world. There's something shady going on, and he seems like somebody who's experienced some shade. He has that great voice, and some D&D strange things that I didn't participate in. So he's a character who's almost like a wizard. He does. So anyway, I talked to Grimm. It might have been a year now. And I didn't think that was fruitful because I think he's interesting, and to really get to know him and draw some of the things out that he's thinking. It's the great conversation that Paul does. He's a great rando. And he gets some attention from Paul because he's got something going on. Same with Chad. So now I schedule a conversation with Chad. It's a couple months away because Chad is becoming a channel that is trying to do some structured discussions. So his channel is not as easy to get time with him, but I think he's going to have some open talks that I might get into. I don't know. But I have to develop my own thing. So part 3 of the story. So the story is guy moves to Pennsylvania as a young man. School goes terrible because I get involved in drugs. There's a death. As I'm trying to get out of drugs, there's a death that is just shocking and adjacent to me, not personal, but personal enough. So these adjacent deaths, they seem to demarcate points in my life. So then I became a church man, and I've been a church man ever since. I'm going to talk about deconstruction at some point. Then the second half, I told yesterday morning a little bit of what church life was like. I started a band, and I went to Creation concerts. So Creation is a festival, a Christian festival. I started getting involved in music. Changed from AC/DC to Petra and the Newsboys and the Christian music genre. And Jennifer Knapp, that's someone I brought up with my Paul conversation. And Jennifer Knapp, not only a girl with a guitar, which is great, but these deep, poignant songs that just moved me. Jennifer Knapp's first couple albums were just amazing to me. And it had this sadness to it. And then later she comes out as same-sex attracted. And you get some sense that she was struggling with something that her songs were framed in this manner. Could you still love me? And it's her talking to God. And that is powerful, because that is the human experience. When two people come together and they get to know each other and they make a commitment, and then the question is, as you get to know the deep, real me that can't be hidden, you're going to get to know me. Can you still love me? To love and be loved. That's the whole human desire in some general sense. So Jennifer Knapp and the human question, if you knew me, would you really love me? And that's kind of a Jesus Christian question. So I'm a church man. I want to be involved. I got to do something with my life, and I just do whatever's in front of me. I'm not some great planner. I'm the worst planner ever. I just decide to do something that makes sense at that time. So I become a youth group leader, and I play music. I have a little background in music. I can play rhythm and be part of a worship team. I can play acoustic guitar. And I'm willing to stand in front of people regardless of how good I am at it. I'm willing to stand up. And it's not that I'm qualified. It's that I am willing. So I become a worship leader, youth leader, and I'm taking kids to concerts. And to me, being a youth leader, one of the great things about it is it doesn't matter what the kids get out of it. You're going to get something out of it. So it mattered to me. And I wanted to be someone who was an example of someone trying to follow Jesus, as poorly as I do it. But I'm in. My story is I'm in. When Shelley was killed, and I went to church, and I'm trying to get out of one world into another. I want to be changed. And I was changed. I don't know what to tell you. And yet you stay the same. I'm the same me living in a different world, and it affects you. So I'm in that world. And then Brandon, he was my kid. He was there for me. He showed up every time, and whatever connection we had, I just loved him. He was in with me. In for a penny, in for a pound. And then he died in a car crash, and it was devastating. But again, adjacent. He wasn't my son. He was my brother. So that whole thing was just rough. And it shook me enough that I retired from volunteer youth group ministry for a little while. 9/11 had happened, and then my 9/11 was Brandon. The tower fell. Brandon was gone. The other kids weren't committed like Brandon, it seemed to me, Brandon and his friend, Zach. So I was trying to figure out what to do with life. I was committed to church. I'm trying different jobs because that's one of the main parts of your life. I've been a blue collar all my life, and I was trying to become white collar. So I ended up at that time I'm working at a drug rehab doing third shift. So third shift, the easiest shift to deal with addicts because they're all sleeping. So I'm in a rehab, and I'm trying to update paperwork. I'm doing tasks that seemed necessary because I only do what's in front of me. And I had been in a band, Christian cover band. I wanted to quit that band because Karen, like all rock band stories, Karen wanted more out of the relationship than a keyboard player and a guitar player in a band. And to me, so we'd been together for 10 years, this band, and I just didn't want anything to do with that. I didn't feel the same way. So the strain was finally enough that and then I don't remember exactly the timing, but somewhere around the year 2000, I said that's enough of the band relationship with other things underneath, rippling under the water. So drug rehab, Brandon is killed. A couple years, 5 years at a drug rehab, just doing work. And I decided to go to school to continue my education, higher education. So I take some business classes at my local community college. I'm going to become a general business degree, and I'll get an associate's degree while I'm at the rehab. Working nights, I can do some studies. I can do whatever I want. I got nothing to do all night long. Third shift is terrible. I honestly believe it's the second best shift. First shift is best, but you sacrifice the great time of day for work. Third shift, you get the day back, but you sacrifice sleep. So you get the day, and it's not useful because you start living in the unhealthy way of sacrificing sleep. So we're 12 minutes in, okay. So the church that I now go to, my second church, the first one with Ron, the second one with Pastor Rob, who is a dedicated pastor, and when somebody comes sniffing around his door astray, he grabs them and starts taming them and directing them. So I became part of the worship team at that church. I was a volunteer youth ministry, and then I quit for a little while, and then they decided they were going to hire somebody. They hired a guy. He had a rocky road, about 1.5 years of ministry. Didn't take, and ended up being fired. So they decided they're going to continue to try and have youth ministry. They're going to hire somebody. They knew me, and I applied for the position and got the position. So I was now full-time youth minister, and it's crazy. It's not that I'm the best guy. I'm pretty average, but I'm in. So now I'm a paid youth minister, and this is a church with 100 people. So there are kids, and I'm going to hang with them, and we're going to do stuff. We're going to talk about Jesus, but we're also going to play dodgeball. We're going to go on hikes. We're going to do paintball for Jesus. We're going to go to concerts. We're going to have overnighters. So kids just want something happening. Canoeing became a big thing. We lived close to a small creek, and I took them on canoe rides in the summer. And tubing, whatever I could think of. We'd go to whatever, you just do stuff. And then I'm someone I'm in the church. And they're going to watch me and decide if it's real. That's what I think the big task is. I'm not going to change them. I'm going to testify that I'm changed. So there I am, doing that in 15 years of paid youth ministry for an average youth minister. There were exceptional youth ministers all around me at all the other churches. But there are exceptional kids that are just looking for an adult who believes what he says. That's this whole thing. And it's my deconstruction story. But anyway, we're going to conclude this. So about the time I'm in this community college, I decide that I'm aging. I'm 40. If I'm ever going to have a real life like I think everyone else has, of marriage and children, I better start acting like I want it. So I end up trying and running into people, and I get a blind date, and I decide that no matter what, how terrifying women are to me, and they are terrifying. Women, if you don't know it, you're just terrifying. Some men are able to manipulate that relationship, not me so much. But I find a partner, marry, and then the most wonderful thing happens. We have children. We have a little girl, and 5 years later, a second little girl. Now, the story goes that to know someone and still stick with your commitment. The marriage union is this statement that I'm going to take a chance on you, and I'm not leaving. And as I get to know you, I'll try and adapt. It's a very strange commitment, but the sense is that you're in and you're not going out. Well, if you, surprise, people step out anyway. So this past year has been my divorce. And I want to offer my ex the gratitude that the most wonderful thing ever happened to me. I have 2 children, 2 girls, 16 and 11, who, whether I'm a great father or youth group leader, I'm in. I love them. They're girls, so that relationship has always been a little tough for me, but I'm their dad. I don't have to date them. I have to tell them what to do. And they are starting to have their own mind and do some bit of pushback and, willful attitudes. My 16-year-old has, and she's just like me, which is not, it might not serve her well. I tell her that, the traits that I have, she's going to struggle with in this fashion. And I tell her, here's what I'm like. And you're a little bit like that, and it's going to cause you some difficulty. You're going to have to try and overcome the distracted nature, the too laid back. I'm so chill. It's terrible. I'm a little too easygoing. So it's been my divorce. So this past year from the COVID, and I just said it, the word that gets you flagged. There won't be a warning. I don't think I didn't talk about it. Somehow the algorithm picks up any kind of conversation where you say something about that thing, and it gets flagged. So in that time, we had this shutdown of everything, and the stupidest, craziest thing that ever happened in my lifetime of all kinds of stupid things. But the idea that our great leaders will succumb to this strange illness. So COVID comes, 2020, youth group shuts down. I have to try and figure out what youth group is when we have only screens. And I try different things, but it's hard to run a youth group when kids don't show up. We struggled through it at the end of 2020. We were meeting again, and it was all the restrictions and whatever. But at the end of the year, end of 2020, my wife left. And then my mom gets COVID, and the very beginning of 2021, she passed. And then, then I lost the youth group position, which I had had for 15 years. And the church had been so faithful, allowing me to be a professional youth group minister. There are some budgetary strains and some other things going on. So my wife leaves and my mom passes. I lose my job, which I did not want to do. I said, you have my permission to get rid of me, but I'd kind of like you to pay me instead. Well, they made their choice. So that's the third strike. And then when my mom passed, I took my dad into my house, which is also quite the task. My dad and I may be too much alike. He's not my favorite. I'm not his favorite in some way. I'm his son, but I seem to be committed to arguing with him about religion or whatever things he says. I want to wrestle with him. So we who wrestle with God, we who wrestle with our parents in relationship. So I went back to, I lost my job, brought my dad in. I now have visitation with my kids. We settled the divorce issue. And that's just terrible. It's not the ideal. And it's so common. It's really remarkable how poorly relationships are going for many. And even the best ones where they stick together, it's a rough road. And then to break up is, maybe it makes your road smoother. Not sure that you're losing a partner is smoothing a road. So that's where we're at now. So I'm a preacher at a church, quarter-time pastor. And I did tell Paul that my last interview, the idea of seeking wisdom, this little corner. I work in a church with a lot of older people who are just full of wisdom. There's something about that small church that if this corner is seeking wisdom, it's surprising to me that people don't just go to church and see if there's wisdom there. It might be better than the thinky-talky, the religion that's not a religion, because the religion that is a religion is full of wisdom. And there's this character, Jesus, who, whatever you think of him, there's no one like him. Unparalleled in all of human history. Power, grace, glory. There's a character worth getting to know. So that's the end of this. I'm going to do my music. I have my little routine in the morning. So I wake up, get some coffee, do my business. I do some exercises. So my life now, and my next video is going to be a little bit about my goals and where I think this next thing is going with YouTube videos and music and preaching and raising children. So I have to practice my songs. I do a breathing exercise. Wim Hof. My sister got me into that, and I just figured, well, I'll add that. It's pretty easy. I'll do some deep breathing and holding my breath. Then I do some light calisthenics just to get a routine. Then I do my prayer thing, and I wanted to learn Spanish, so I do the Lord's Prayer in Spanish. It's the only Spanish I know, except saying hola. Then I play some music. So we'll get more into that, what my daily life is. So if you've come this far, you win no prizes. So that's it for today. I'll post this up, and I'll continue to try and make some kind of impact in the little corner and put videos up, and we'll see what happens. That is all. Signing off.